um, teachings so that you can have a comprehensive idea of where we started from. As a means of trying to do a recap, I started by giving a background as touching what I meant by rescripting. I remember telling people that a lot of what you we become in life, they have been, you know, greatly endangered, at the mercy of the quality of people that supervised your formative years, which is the truth of the matter, irrespective of where you are growing up all over the world. And made you realize that some of the things people do, why we want to lay claim to our decisions, but in most of the cases, what we have is we are making decisions that were programmed into us by the virtue of the kind of people we relate with, the kind, people who have gone ahead of us that we look up to while we're growing up. They formed a model. So our models, they are giving you example without, in fact, a lot of times without communication. So they are creating a picture of the kind of life you should repeat in a very simple term, such that you may not even like how their lives are turning out to be, except that if that culture has been predominant for a long time, it is after a while you realize that the same people you don't like, what they became at a certain point, when you go to that certain point, you are becoming almost the same thing or a little better or worse, as the case may be. But it is not something that is set in stone that cannot be changed. We can really alter them. All these things we are talking about, if a man is ready and you've paid keen attention to what is happening around you, you can really change the narrative. So that basically that's the background of our teaching. And I introduced the first part by um, talking about journaling. I did not title it journaling, but how you need to script your life by working with a definite mission statement. You should be able to have articulated statements that give direction to your life, to your values, your decisions, such that that can predict your future destination. Such that even if you will pivot later, it should be on the account of divine interruption, not because you were not really well planned to embark on a critical and meaningful life journey. Are you saying that? Then, after teaching around journaling, I moved on to the power of spoken words, how you can rescript your life outcomes by the power of spoken words. Powerful section. We have the video here. I think that should be the last video before this one. So you can check that out. So to take us further tonight, I like to add to what we had before now by speaking around the power of imagination. Like I said when we started tonight's session, that I'm only going to introduce this because I want to teach into it in full. So everything I'll be doing tonight is just setting a background, and that background is very important. So when I say I want to set a background, that does not mean you are not going to learn something very great for you that will be important and pivotal to your life's journey. Okay. So those of you who were part of the previous sessions, as I'm teaching, I like you to write in the comment box what has been your action point after those sessions. I try as much as I can every time I have the opportunity to talk to people that the goal of mentorship is to facilitate transformation, not necessarily to disseminate information. The original goal of sections like this, especially for some of you guys who are on my closer platform, You know, the last couple of weeks, we had our session in our private groups. And what I thought the last time, many of them were wondering why I decided not to make that public. Anyways, it was not something that is that secretive, but the weight of the conversation was not something I would just want to cast on a platform where some people can see it and not value it. All right. And we have those messages on archive. All right. So the goal of all this teaching is not just to entertain you, it's not to spread information or to make you feel good or to occupy your time. No, the entire overall goal is that you will become transformed from whom you've been to a better version of you. And that better version of you will definitely contribute. You will have increased in personal value and you'll be given higher level of value even to your world. Basically, that's what we are trying to do. So, and the proof that what you are learning, you will make use of it is in your action point. What are the decisions you are making after each session? So, I will read them out. Yeah, trust me, I'm going to read them out. I believe you should be typing out, those of you who have been part of the previous session. So, what has been your action point? Or those of you who only did not get an action point, but you've started exemplifying, you know, the action point. How has it been for you over the couple of weeks or months, depending on when you started with us on this platform? So, as I'll be reading that, um, I want to bring something to your attention that a lot of your experience in life will appear to people as new things because what you exhibit are the things that people see. But if you will be sincere with yourself, you will realize that a lot of what you are manifesting today, you have either had a picture of it before now. Please pay attention to what I'm saying. The truth of the matter is, there are things that will come up, even positively, by divine orchestrations that you will be blown off. That I never thought of it this way. This couldn't have crossed my imagination, all of that. But throughout your lifetime, those kind of experiences, they are going to be minimal. As a matter of fact, what God does is to exceed people's expectation, not to give you a result where you have zero expectation. Are you seeing that? What happened divinely a lot of times is that when you give in certain level of investment into something and there is divine blessing on it, the thing can become so blown that you are like, oh, even in my best prediction, I wouldn't have imagined it this big. However, that wouldn't happen over something that has never crossed your mind. Are you saying that? It's just like somebody who has never imagined himself running in the Olympic. It is never going to happen in the history of that individual that he will be an Olympic champion. It's never going to happen. It's like somebody to feel I will just sleep and wake up, then PhD will be conferred on you. It's never going to happen. It's not going to happen. It's like somebody to just imagine that, oh, one day I could just be ministering to millions of people connected all over the world without ever having a glimpse of that before the time. It's never going to happen. Are you seeing that? So, unto good and unto evil, many of the things that will happen to you in the future, they are visiting you now in the realm that is unseen. Are you getting what I'm trying to say? Those things are visiting you in the realm that are, you know, in the realms that are unseen, but yet they are real. I decided to pluralize it, realms, unseen, but very real. That's the reason why within the twinkling of an eye, several thoughts are going through your mind. Are you seeing that? Some of you right now, as I'm talking, there is the possibility of you to be thinking about the food you want to eat after now. Or maybe somebody already promised you something and you are trying to, oh, I can't wait to make this happen. I can't wait to get this and all of that. So, a lot of some of you, there are even random thoughts going through your mind. But the idea is each of the thoughts going through your mind is communicating a possibility. Again, each of the thoughts going through your mind, each of them is communicating possibility, not necessarily a reality. That's why, even if you dream, even if you have a vision, even if you have seen something in maybe on the media and you desire that kind to happen to you, it is not going to happen to you automatically. However, the fact that it has ever crossed your imagination, it means it can really happen. It can really happen unto good and unto evil. It can really happen. But that does not mean it's going to happen. So I'm going to first set the background for you. Because any of those things can happen to you, it is important that we teach you how to deal with the kind of thoughts that are not correct. Because the world we live in is such a very charged world, and unfortunately, highly uncensored, such that you are exposed to negativity than you are exposed to positivity. Is unfortunate, but that's the reality. Some of you, when you go online on social media, before you get out of Instagram, you probably might have consumed a lot of unnecessary images that are not consistent with your life journey. Meanwhile, each of those things, they are trying to get a space in your mind so that they can start an operation. Are you getting that? Each of those things, they are competing to have a space in your mind, because this is the reality. Anything that enters into your mind, anything that enters into your mind is a seed that, if it finds a conducive environment, is going to grow. Oh, yes, it's going to grow. And I want you to know, even what's entered into your mind without your consent, there is like a channel inside of you that archives each of them. That's why some of you are surprised how certain statements got to come out of your mouth without effort. Some of you, you've caught yourself saying things that, really? Where did I learn that from? No, you learned it somewhere. It was not that natural as you think. But at the time you were learning it, it was not a conscious learning. So it went straight into the archive, that your storage, that part of you that store information. Then when the hour of need arises, then what you have in your bank begins to manifest. Are you seeing that? So everything that crosses your mind is communicating possibilities. Now, the idea is, if you are imagining yourself as a very blessed person, from whom nations begin to drink. That is very possible. As a matter of fact, I make bold to tell you that positive thoughts will likely never cross any positive thought that likely crosses your mind is part of your design to manifest. Please let that sink in. Any positive thought. Now, there are good plans that God has for you that you may never even capture in your mind. But I'm saying a lot of those things that ever come like a flash onto you, they will likely not come to you at all if you are not supposed to be a candidate to receive them. Are you getting what I'm saying? So I don't know how much of, you know, what the strength of your mind is, what you conceive deep down there. I don't know the weight, the magnitude. I don't know how frightening they are to you yourself. Let me share a funny story, which is very real. I will share a personal story, then I will share the story of someone. Some of you've heard the story of Dr. Sam Adeyemi, um, who he was just trying to find out what could someone from that kind of background, is from Kwara State, and you know, not born into a wealthy family, quote and unquote, but the parents were fine. I know according to him on his own admission, the parents had an engineering firm. That was the reason why I even went to the university to study engineering and all of that. These are public information that you can access. But he said he was desiring to get a brand new car. Now, that's something that you feel is not really a big deal for some people, but to him that time it was a very big deal. In fact, around him that was not something common. He said a brand new car. Please pay attention, not to Kumba vehicle. Then, for that to be able to sink into his mind, that was his desire. He said he got the picture of that brand of vehicle and stuck it around his bed. So anytime we woke up in the morning, study the Bible, do some prayers and all of that, part of the picture he was seeing every day was that vehicle. You know, initially when he started seeing it, even him himself had to doubt that, guys, how is this one going to happen? Especially if you are the kind that you at that point probably he couldn't even buy the so-called Okumba for himself. He will need help. He will need support. He will need collaboration. He will need assistance to get that maybe third hand, fourth hand, as the case may be. But this time he said he needed a new car. To cut the long story short, the first thing that happened is a set of people came around and they said, we like to honor Dr. Sam, not the Dr. Sam of today who can afford whatever he wants. But that time, and the people said they wanted to buy a car for him. He did not send anybody to them. He did not discuss it with them. And they did not have access to where he kept that picture. But the thing is this: when you sustain something strongly in your heart, don't forget I've told you the universe in itself is constituted by, great unimaginary forces. So things you are not saying are audible, sometimes louder than the words of your mouth, depending on where they are coming from. So somehow they got to discuss about it, and those people couldn't buy a new car. So the moment they told him what they wanted to do for him, he appreciated it. Said, okay, let's go ahead with that. However, what I desire is not this thing that is coming, but this is a sign that that is possible. To cut the long story short, the same brand of vehicle, after I don't know how many years it took him, he got it exactly. Exactly. I guess as a gift or something. He said he wrote it there too, that before he will clock 40 years, he wanted to be worth so amount of money. Now, he read that in somebody's book. He read that in somebody's book. And this thing, he has been able to teach a lot of people who have become CEOs in Nigeria today as they follow through. These are not principles you just apply, in their isolated form. There are things that must be working in networks for you to be able to produce something. That's why I advise those who are just joining to go and listen to where we started from. Are you getting what I'm saying? If you are getting what I'm saying, type in the comment box that, yeah, I can get you. I can get you. Are you seeing that? So that was Dr. Sam. That is exactly similar to the story of Miles Muro. I listened to him a lot of times those years. I've shared with some of you how he just said, no, whatever enters into my heart will come out in my life. What goes into the mind comes out in a life. What goes into the mind comes out in a life. For that reason, he decided to program the kind of things that could enter into his mind. And all of you knew the story of that man. I live in America, and I can tell you more than 90% of the people living in the United States are indebted, including billionaires. What makes some people rich is because their assets is more than their liabilities. But more than 90% of the people in the United States, they are indebted to either to bank, to credit facilities, anything like that. Everybody is holding a credit card or more. However, the man I'm talking about, Dr. Miles Muro, lived in the Bahamas. While he was alive, he had a private jet. Some of you know he had a church. He had a lot of other facilities and empowerment centers accounted to him, and he was owing nobody a dime. By the virtue of what I'm teaching you, he was not owing anybody a dime. But the idea is he was able for a long time to conceive how to live a life of zero death. And until he agrees to it, that this is really possible and I'm ready to go for it. And he got it. He got it. So when it has to do with something great, something positive, something transgenerational that can bring global impact, you will need to play a part for it to come to pass. But the other one, I would teach around that. So let me just be building one after the other. The other one, if you don't deal with it, what I mean is evil thoughts, you don't need to do anything for them to come to pass. So maybe next Sunday, I'm going to take my time to teach you how to deal with negative imaginations. I've had the privilege of teaching twice in our church some 3 years ago around that subject matter, and it was a great time. When I'm preaching, it's different from when I'm doing all this live session. They are completely different. Same spirit, anyways, but they are different. So the idea is, but tonight I want to focus on how you can cultivate positive imagination. Positive imagination. Because the outcome of your life is greatly at the mercy of what we are discussing tonight. I shared the story with some of you how I was to do something years back. And I've never done that kind of stuff before then, but I had seen people do it. So I was asking myself, will I be able to do this? Will I not be able to do this? Then somebody gave me a book, and I went to get a copy of my own after I read it. The Power of Positive Thinking by Norman Vincent Peale. The Power of Positive Thinking. I'm talking about close to 10 years ago now. And when I read that book, a portion of that book was saying, I can't quote him verbatim, it's been a long time, but he was trying to tell you that you are not an unfortunate being. Whatever good has happened to other people can happen to you too. That is, you are deserving of the blessings of this earth. Now, that's in my word. I don't know how I framed it, but that's the lesson I learned from that. And I'm talking about 10 years ago. That was the time I decided. It came as a very, like a veil was taken off my eyes, that there is also no blessing God can give to man that I'm not qualified for. In myself, I'm not qualified. But because I'm a redeemed of the Lord, there is nothing that can be a blessing unto mankind that I am below it for whatever reason. That is the default understanding I came out with after studying that book. However, I'll be sincere with you too, that even as I'm teaching you right here, there are certain kind of desires that visit me that sometimes I don't have what it takes to give them residency. What I mean by residency is something comes to you. Don't forget I said, hardly will any positive thought visit you if you are not a candidate to host it. But a lot of times, instead of giving access for that thing to stay with you, you chase it away that, sorry, I'm not the kind of person for this. You chase it away. So I remember, I'm not going to talk into that because that sent me on a very serious assignment. Something happened. I was not talking with anybody. And I believe it was the Holy Ghost making a conversation with my spirit. I said, do you know this can happen? Do you know this can happen? And deep down, I found myself saying, I know it can happen, but I'm not sure it can happen through myself. Oh, and the Spirit of the Lord rebukes me that nobody carries this kind of thought and do great things in my name. And I started repenting immediately. And why will I be reasoning that way? Guess what? That Spirit of the living God was communicating with me something that was never part of my frame of reference. I didn't have a reference for it in my head. So the first thing you need to do to create now I'm now entering into my teaching. The first thing you need to do when it comes to creating a positive imagination that is consistent with your destiny is to decide to begin to see things that are not part of your bringing. In other words, you need to deliberately begin to relate with things that are not consistent with your history. In other words, you need to begin to normalize things that are strange to your family history. I don't have a better way to explain it, but I believe you understand what I'm saying. Are you saying that? You don't need to travel to the United States. You don't need to travel to China before you begin to have an idea that is similar to people who are making things happen in China and in America. Never forget that there are very poor people even in the United States. And that's supposed to be the most prosperous economy on the face of the earth. If you go to downtown in different cities in America, you will see beggars, people who will literally ask you to give them money in broad daylight. Oh, I'm not talking about armed robbers this time around. Are you seeing that? And this is where the biggest of the biggest boys are coming from. So that should make you understand that it is not necessarily the territory that actually produces the best in the people. but the kind of ideology people subscribe to within that system. Are you seeing that? Thank you so much. Oh, my coordinator. Good evening, sir. Asan Akinola. Yeah, that's the scripture. It says, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Correct. As in thinketh in his heart, so is he. So you have to, by yourself, begin to expand your imagination to comprehend things that are not part of your history. If not, even if God opened doors for you, your limited mindset, your poor purview will close that door. Oh yes, it's definitely going to happen. It's definitely going to happen. So how do you do that? You see, three things that shape your thinking culture. Three things that shapes your thinking culture. I'm aware that people say your friends determine your hands, all of that, very correct. But I hope you know you cannot make friends beyond your exposure. No matter how positive your intentions are, no matter how genuine your intentions are, you cannot make friends beyond your cycle of influence. It is where you are that you select from. It is the platform you engage in that will give you access to people. Then the question is, all the platforms you have access to, how many people doing great things are on those platforms? You see how far and distant certain things can be. So what do you do? Please pay attention. What do you do? The first thing is to seek to expose your mind to when they tell people to travel. Unfortunately, an average African want to only travel to go and take pictures. We don't even understand the essence of vacation. We don't. You think people are stupid that during summer they carry their children and decide to visit certain places they have never visited before? You think they just have money to throw all around? If you think so, you need to think again. And of course, it depends on who is planning vacation anyway. There are people who just go to vacation because they just add the term vacation. They don't even know what they are talking about. But the idea is what you see is sending a picture to your head. And your brain does not process lies and truths differently. It doesn't know the difference. So if you see something continuously, and you hear something continuously, it will get to a point your brain will adjust to it. And I hope you know that is exactly what the media has used to devalue the chastity of our faith by trying to invalidate miracles and normalizing, immoral acts. I was saying something on IG yesterday. Somebody made a video and was talking about guys in church, young folks who were living together, unmarried, yet to be married guy and ladies. That's pure cohabitation. And I just try to check the comment box, all for me to see people trying to say, church is your own too much. You know that Nigeria term. You church people, your own too much. More like trying to say, what is the big deal around cohabitation? Are you seeing that? In the beginning, it was not so. But because certain things have been normalized through movies, certain things have been commonized through media, then we've adjusted to it. And unfortunately, the things that are trending, the things that are gaining traction, they are not designed ever to make your life better. Now, forget about that. The people in charge of algorithm are not that gullible to think that they will drive and make viral that which will bring people to stature. It will never happen except you use money to sponsor it. Are you saying that? Or God breathed on it to make it spread? But to think the highest thing that will trend on a platform that was not formed by somebody who is after God originally, that the highest thing that will trend there is that which is promoting God. Now we need to think again. That's why I feel when people say music, gospel music are not the top on the chart. How will it be top on the chart? Who own the platform? Who is deciding how the algorithm is being ordered? That is, by the way. So what you see consistently, what you hear consistently, becomes a strong force in your mind. But it depends on how much you've built yourself. That was what I meant by giving residency to visions that are visiting you. If even though those things are normal, the bigger question is, are they so normal that you have added yourself to the list of people that should do it? Yeah. Are they that normal? Have you really believed that is a matter of time? As the Lord liveth, this is going to be my reality. Have you believed that? So I was saying there are three things that will shape your imagination. And the first of it that I will say is the kind of places you go to. The kind of places you go to. That has to do with what kind of events do you attend. This is so critical that the neighborhood where you are staying is also part of what we are talking about. If you will stay in a ghetto, at least the question you should ask is, how long do you have to stay there for the impact of that environment not to be pronounced on your destiny in the grand scheme of things? Because we understand times and seasons that you don't need to go and stay where you cannot afford. But do you know, if you begin to stay in poor and poverty stricken environment for a long time, it's a matter of time. It will be difficult for you to change that kind of neighborhood. So, what I'm saying is, if you have the capacity at a time to pay for a bigger apartment that you can sustain, now don't go and do something that is beyond you. We all know what is beyond us. We are talking about what is befitting your current status, at least that can challenge your mind a bit better. It may stretch you a bit. It is better for you to get that kind of environment than to stay. Let me share a personal story with you. I remember 2020, my friend Ayo is in Virginia in the United States. We went to check a building together in where you call Akobo for those who live in Ibadan or who know Ibadan in Oyo State, Nigeria. We went to check that apartment. I was the one that wanted to get it. Don't forget, I was staying with my friend in a single room before that time. Then we had a change of financial status, just doing one or two things. We moved to 3-bedroom flat. If I tell you the price should have suggested to us that we were inviting ourselves into big trouble. But we went it that way. So we paid less than 200,000. 2020 or no 2019. 2019 May to be precise. We moved into that apartment. 11 months later, what I lost in that house was more than 2 years' rent of the whole apartment that I lost in less than an hour. Are you seeing that? Because there are things that are practically impossible when you move to certain neighborhood. It's that simple. Anyways, the following year, and I wanted to get a different apartment. So my friend took me to that place and we saw a building. Fantastic. It was okay. I had multiples of that money on my account, and my friend knew. But I was saying to myself, how will I pay for this kind of no, 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 this is expensive. This is expensive. This is expensive. Listen, that was how I left the place. And you know how it works in that part of the world? The first rent is always higher. They used to add all kind of charges. I have two of my guys, and one of them is online right now, who is an agent, so real estate company. So they know what I'm talking about. They will ask you to pay for this, pay for that, all of that. But I could pay for that. I mean, times three of it at that time when that negotiation was to be done. But because of my, I grew up with let's manage something. Some of you know I'm a good manager, right? But I'm telling you, your management may be the reason why you won't rise well. Know what to manage and know what not to manage. That's the symposium discussion. So I didn't get the apartment. I now went to another place. The difference between the two was like 100,000 naira. I said no, 100,000 was something I needed to save that, all of that. So I got the smaller apartment that I was going to get out of the place in 1 year. That was how I remained in that smaller apartment for 3 good years. The fourth year, okay, I moved to the United States. I remained there for 3 good years, as against my initial plan that I will be there for 1 year. As I got to that place, it was as though my dream shrank to fit in into that space that I rented for myself. I'm telling you personal experience. It you see, let me tell you something. If you don't learn to create certain, not necessarily difficult, but something stretchy for yourself, your creative potential will be greatly endangered. So the idea of I'm paying 60,000 in my room for where I'm staying and I'm okay with that, you are not okay, sir. And that's not contentment. No, that's not. That's not contentment. That is complacency. It's a matter of time. When you want to get married, you will see how your journey will drag. So again, not to go and stay in places where people who are living there, they are completely not in your grade. However, ensure that you are always placing a demand on yourself beyond what you have normalized. That's how your genius will be awakened. So I was earning something bigger than the kind of place I got. That's what I'm telling you. But as I got into that place, somehow, I don't know, but for me, experientially, everything shrank back into that space. If I had to dash out certain things because there was no space to keep them, and things I was going to need later. So the idea is you should be visiting places. Number one, by places, I mean places you can't imagine, so that you will know that these things also happen to human being. And by the time you know these things happen to a human being, you will be able to elevate your own expectation. That even what you are expecting now, more than that has been happening unto men. And there's nothing happening to anybody that is not common to men. Even wealth in the Bible was described as common wealth. It was because of unfruitfulness of our mind that makes wealth to be scarce. It was supposed to be something common. Are we together now? So places, there are places you visit. You you see, you just realize that, oh my goodness. Oh God, oh God, oh God. I have undermined everything called divine enablement. I have undermined them. I remember the presenter in Ondo State, a radio presenter, he went to capture something in a palace, to be precise, the palace of Oba Kirunton. What's his name? Obatero Akinruntan, the Olugbo of Ugbo Kingdom. That guy was supposed to be a, an OAP, an on-air personality that was known, recognized in Ondo State. He got to the house of this man on his own admission. What I'm telling you, he shared it by himself. Nobody asked him to remove his shoes, but you see, There is a way an environment can school you without anybody talking. As at that time, the man had never seen something like that. So he got to the gate of the. I've never been there. That was what he shared. As he got there, he said he started removing his shoe by himself. That was his background catching up with him, even though he was a presenter that was recognized. He never saw something like that. I knew, even though he was embarrassed by that experience, because they told him, "Why are you doing this? Man, wear your shoe, my friend, and enter." He wouldn't do that later. He wouldn't do that later. So begin to normalize. And when you visit places bigger than you, don't close your eyes and don't close your mind. More importantly, your mind. How did Bishop Oyedepo come to the vision of, what's the name? Covenant University? Stories that are public. He said he was reading a newspaper and he said there is a way he receives word from God and said, "Arise, build me a school." Or something. I can't remember the story, but to get the way the university will look like, he was in Ora Robert University here. And he said, as he was moving through that university, he was saying to himself, this cannot only be in America. This kind can be anywhere on earth. It depends on who is seeing the vision. This can be anywhere on it. This can be anywhere on it. This can be anywhere on it. And he went back home. Is according to us, to the story Bishop shared, that he read 10 biographies of world leading universities and he wrote it down. Covenant University must be among the top leading university in Nigeria that should be able to compete across the globe. That was before the foundation of that university was laid. A little wonder why the university is doing what it's doing today. I'm saying to you, what has never crossed your imagination may not be featured in your future. If it has crossed your imagination, understand that God can exceed it. So I'm still going there. So I'm not saying your imagination is the peak of what can happen to your life, but I'm saying your imagination suggests possibilities that can cross your history throughout your lifetime. Throughout your lifetime. Throughout your lifetime. So intentionally visit places. Number two, intentionally go to events where they are speaking the language of your future, not where they are discussing your past. Some of you, you are in the company of people whose current conversations are the evident token of where you have left behind. You will be doing yourself a great disservice to remain in that company. Now, I can't see anything in the comment box. Am I just talking to myself here right now? Are you seeing that? They are discussing what is already behind you. What is already behind you? So determine what kind of program should you be attending. A senior friend of mine, I brought him to Summit of the Creatives in 2023, I believe. Some of you were there. You remember how he shared his story. He was working with MTN. MTN, yeah. That man was doing chalk. And, if I want to go into his story, it's a long thing. But you see, this thing I'm teaching you, one day he just told himself, everything they will pay me in MTN for 30 years cannot power the kind of life I had seen for myself. Everything they will pay me in this place as salary compressed together cannot is it will be insufficient to accomplish the kind of future I had seen for my family and myself. That was that man. And on the basis of that, not that he already got a job, he resigned. This is not in America because some of you are familiar with Americans, people dropping out of school, all of that. I'm telling you a story that happened in the city of Ibadan there. Oh, he just first resigned. So now, if I don't even know what to do now, I'm not saying you should go and resign because I don't know how 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 concrete your convictions are. If you are just moving by the wave of what I'm talking about, you can resign and your life will be miserable. But this one, he did not need to consult anybody. First, he resigned. Now let me first leave this job first. Then he now went for a seminar in Lagos. And people will say seminars, they are just doing motivation. It matters who is hearing what, because if ears are not trained to hear things, they will just be hearing information. While some people, they are hearing secrets and their life is about to explode. You go to the conference, something led to another. The guest speaker in the conference came with a material and he was going to sell it. The man could not afford it. And as the speaker was speaking, he said, "Now, I know some of you, you are in this auditorium, you cannot afford this thing I'm about to sell, and you desire it. If truly you desire it, I know a minister of God that will say, if you don't have the money in your pocket, it means you don't need it. I respect the man so much, but I don't believe that statement. You can need something and the money is not in your pocket. Oh, yes, you can. Ideally, the money ought to be in your pocket or in your network if you truly need something. So I got the angle where I'm speaking from, but you might have given yourself to lesser preparation to bring you to the pedestal that sustains the provision for what you need in your current season. Does that mean you still don't need those things? You need it, except that you have failed, with due respect, in the previous preparation. So there should be a system that can, be incorporated to augment your lapses for you to still be where you are supposed to be. So, in a nutshell, the man now said, if there were people, I'm talking about my senior friends now, who feel they can pay for this material for some of these people who are willing to get the material, but they could not afford it. And people volunteered to pay for people. And the speaker said, he was going to do something spiritual. He called the people who had the money to the podium. And he said the people that was to receive from them, that were to receive from them, should stay below. That those ones who wanted to give them the material should lift them and pray for them, that as I'm giving you this material, I'm bringing you to where I stand. Come on now. I'm bringing you to where I stand. And that was how they gave the material to that, my senior friend. As he received the gift, he saw that people giving this gift to him were not schooled than him. They were not really older than him. Not all of them were from wealthy family. He said, there is something I have not learned. And he was shedding tears. He was shedding tears. And right there, he prayed that, God, the next time I'll be back on this kind of platform, I'm coming to give this kind of help to people. And apart from this kind of platform, I want to be someone that will be giving jobs and employing people. I'm talking about Mr. Ebenezer Ajayi. You can check him out online. That was how I led that conference. And he got home and started praying and reading. Praying, reading. Listen, when your desire is strong enough, I told you, you have activated a process in the spirit realm. If that desire is strong enough, and you now prepare yourself in capacity to be able to accomplish it, then you receive assistances that are beyond ordinary. If you now pray, you win God's approval to take away resistance. That combination is one of the most dangerous combinations, because you should be clear about something. In the area where you are not skilled, God is not likely going to bless you through that place. Oh yeah. That is that simple. If you are not, for instance, If you don't know anything about drug, you can't get cure for cancer. It doesn't matter who is praying for you or who is laying hand on you. You cannot. How will you know what to do with it? Are you saying that? So when you make choices and you give due diligence to your field of study, what you don't know is that you become a candidate for blockbuster opportunity if only your desire is strong enough and your commitment is elevated than common commitment, average commitment. Are you saying that? To cut the long story short, that was how he went to learn how to do solar business and all of that. The first contract he got, not immediately, a year later, that contract gave him his first car. He used the car for 2 years, changed it to SUV. He brought the third car he was using to my conference. All the guys he left at MTN, except they were borrowing money, none of them could ride the kind of car he was riding with his own salary. Where is he going to get the money? Except you are stealing. Places, programs, and events. Are you getting what I'm saying? Some of you, when you go online, what you see are skits of people who were raised by failed parenting, but they are taking advantage of algorithm. And now today, they are all millionaires. Some of them are millionaires in dollar, except that there is nobody listening to them ever that will ever near 1,000 in dollar. They just promote one nonsense online. Now everybody is being paid when you have traction and they make money. And those are the people that take your time. They steal your time, which is the unit of your productivity. They steal your attention, which is what you trade with in the market of life. Then they divert your attention and short circuit your creative ability. Then your imagination is paralyzed. You are just living a day at a time. Because you are not processing anything into time, you have no strong expectation in the future. Justifiably so. The question is, what kind of things do you see every day? What kind of thing do you see every day? As early as 2016, somebody was asking me, what are your plans after school? I said, I do not care about tomorrow. You know how we say that thing as Christians? Because I know who owns the future, all of that. I said, but one thing is sure, except the Lord God of heaven gives me a new vision. I said, the next place you will hear of me, by the time I'm out of Southwest Nigeria, will be in the United States. That was 2016. Talking to somebody, I was that precise about it. That was why in 2018, when I had the opportunity, somebody was going to assist us, a respected person, to do PR to Canada. I said, Canada is not the location I saw. We can do PR to Canada later, but that will be after what I had seen. I've never applied to any other country ever. I was not the kind of person that would say, I'm just trying to leave Nigeria. No, my life was not going down in Nigeria. I saw it. I saw it. I saw it so much that when I was to go for my visa interview, I did not pray. You can ask my wife. I said, no, this is too real. And to make it worse, I tendered resignation from the place I was working. And I told them the day I was going to hand over. I was using an official card that time, and yet I didn't have a visa to travel. And I told my wife, I said, that's me. I can stick that. I don't advise people to do some funny things I do. But I don't do that every time too. But I can see something and I know exactly when this thing, I'm holding on to it. Not, it can't slip. So what have you been able to give body to in the realm of thoughts that only time will make manifest? What is that thing? What is that thing? I've imagined myself speaking to people that others gather in their millions to listen to. That's, I'm telling you that all of you will be witness to it because it's going to happen. I, I have imagined it to the point that it's so real. A friend of mine is in Tennessee here. He was asking me that, that time we're seeing some respected servants of the Lord in Nigeria. They were holding crusades all around. And he said, do you imagine doing crusades? I said, what? Things I've seen. As at that time, I said, I've never seen that kind of picture. I said, however, people who will pack stadiums, many of them will be taking counsel from me expressly, not the secret counsel. Oh. People take secret counsel from you when your life does not measure up to what they are doing. No, I told him, I said, no, each of them, when I appear in places, they say, oh, that man, that man, that man. So I have known that right from my undergraduate days. I said, so what God will do ministerial, some of you know, I don't really desire pastoring like that, like that. So to do it, we have to be a calling. But that other one, meanwhile, these things I'm telling you, there are Esther and some people, they knew my father's household. So that those things I was telling people some 10 years ago, it's not, there is no reference for it in our house. If to talk about people going to school, yeah, there are references for that in our home. My dad has 2 PhD holder, 5 masters holder, 14 university graduates, 14, yeah. So if you graduate in our house, it's one of those things. So I have to elevate what I was thinking about beyond what has already been set ahead of me. Are you seeing that? And gradually, because what I was imagining was different from what I met, I knew when my life began to take a different turn. I was doing what others have done, but I started doing things that were never done. People went to school, I went to school, people got married, I got married, people move, I move. But there are things that we are now set in line as part of future trajectory and possibility that nobody until now had that kind of trajectory. It is not, I'm not talking about something that makes a man special. It's the mercy of the Lord that brings us into that reality. But I'm saying that mercy is open to all. That grace is open to all. You are the one short circuiting it. And these things we are saying, there are more we could have seen if we expound our mind. Oh, I know that there are more. I know that there are more. I was speaking with a friend. I don't know if he's online. We meet a lot of times where I stay here. And I said, if you want to be a millionaire in dollar, there is no how you can achieve that as a graduate student in America. Because all the funding for your 5 years program, the best among them, I know how much the total funding is. And part of that funding goes to your school fees, goes to your insurance, goes to some other things. They now pay you stipend to live so that as you are doing this program, you will not die. That survivor money that they hand out to us, that's what people are using to send money home. And we are doing fine boy online. So I now said, we were discussing, I told them, I said, do you know there are guys who only have associate degrees? And I'm talking about legit engagement, not fraudsters, who are millionaire in dollars. And some, many guys in a single family. Said, what is the difference? I said, then do you believe you can even have $1 million? Ah, $1 million. You see that when you begin to talk to people, you will now realize that certain things they look common because we discuss them through stories. You see grown-up people talk about footballers. So person is earning so thousands of dollars every week. That is talking about it does not mean he can conceive 1/10 of that money he's talking about. Are you saying that? So The same thing. When people talk about those of you who are in ministry, when you talk about the men God is helping, how also person has planted this in different countries, so person is filling stadiums, so place. As that individual is talking about that, it is not as if he ever believes that God can do anything similar to that through him. And to him, that is humility. No, that is not humility. That is the failure of correct interpretation of what God can do through people's life. So, because there are zero expectations, people think they will wing their way to destiny. It never happens to anybody. Apostle Femi Lazarus will say, destiny is not a surprise package. Again, tonight, I decided to shoot sporadically. Now, this is introduction to these third parts. Like I've said, I'm going to teach it 3 different days, line upon line, precept upon precept. Have you been blessed tonight? Who am I seeing online? Mrs. Grace or Light. Oh my God. I celebrate you, man of God. You know, those are the people God is using to the wife of our pastor here in Starkville. Thank you, ma, for joining us tonight. Are we together now? So this concept has to revolutionize your thinking pattern. And it will speak in the kind of choices you are making. It's going to speak. It's going to be conspicuous. It's going to be evident that the program working in this person is not the same program working in the rest. Because if the same program that work in the rest is what is working in you, they are the prophetic representation of your future. What they are today is what you will be tomorrow or a little above that. Are you seeing that? Which places are you visiting? What programs are you attending? Some of you, you prefer to go to, gatherings. I don't know. Sometimes when I see people who are deprived in life, I just imagine that, oh God, some of them are even spending time, I mean, in terms of physical engagement, more than people who are prospering, except that the activities they give themselves to are not profitable activities. It's in the beginning, it was not so. It was a distraction that has now become a culture. Now, where I grew up from, when people return from school, I'm wrapping up for tonight, anyways. And I thank everyone that has been online up until now. People will return home, then early in the morning, as early as 9:30, 10 a.m. Fact, university students who came home for holiday will be meeting in junctions in our clusters. And what will be the subject matter? Politics, football, maybe movie, or politics, sport, the sports, including boxing, wrestling, all of that. Those were our conversations. Until one day, for instance, in 2013, there was a 6-month ASU strike. And that was exactly what most people in my own place spent the time doing. So some would go back to play, you know, there were different kind of local stuff that people could play. Then some would go and play table tennis. Some were watching movies from glory to glory. Some were sleeping. Then a few of us would go to farm with our parents, return back to make those discussions. Then thank God for church. That's why if any time ever comes and you see someone like me criticizing the church actually, just know that something has gone wrong with my head. Am I saying the church is perfect? I mean, the people, they are not. There are things we see that are obviously wrong. But some of us are beneficiaries of the graciousness of God through local churches. For me, the whole of that 6 months, what gave meaning to my life were the people I was fellowshipping with. Some of them will give me certain books. We discuss around it after that. until we're reading newspaper one day. That is a common thing in my dad's house. And I saw some guys who were being interviewed and they were sharing what they have been able to do with the so-called 6 months. I was like, Jesus Christ. I remember a lady, that was how he became a multi-millionaire to date. He said he just did not want, she didn't want to waste the time. Then she started making footwear. She sold out many pieces. A group of guys invited her. They gave her money. I remember at that time, 1 million was big, not the a million naira now that is as meaningless as anything. And that lady made some tens of millions. The same strike that some of us returned back to school with weaker intellectual capacity because some people did not read anything. Are you seeing that? But it's not far-fetched. Everybody was behaving based on the kind of environment we were. It's as simple as that. It's as simple as that. And finally, tonight, I'm not only speaking to people who will become empowered as individuals alone, but I speak by privilege of grace to people who will become, um, empowerment up onto other people, such that anybody connected to you, either as friends, spouse, contemporaries, colleagues, people who are associates and all of that, they will become fortunate that they got connected to you. Because by the wisdom of the Spirit, you will be able to interpret their seasons for them by speaking the right word that will provoke them onto destiny. So it's not just to encourage you so that you can act well. No, it's that you become an embodiment of the possibility of what we are communicating. And that's where I'm going to stop tonight. So by next week, I trust to will continue by 8 p.m. West African time next week, Sunday. After which, I will take the following Sunday to wrap up this aspect. Then we move to I'm beginning to sense a very big conversation in my heart now. And I'm still clarifying that this is something we should do publicly or with my people on our close platform. Thank you once again. I'd like to ask if there is anyone that has question. If you have, just first indicate that I have a question so that we know that I'm waiting to get your question. And in the absence of none, I'll be able to call it a day. So let me spend this moment to check from the comment box and just recognize some people. Oh, emoji, Pastor Akinola. I really apologize. I promise I was going to call. I don't know, but I sincerely apologize that I've not fulfilled that promise. I will fulfill it. I listened to a message and it touched me so much. The man said, when you tell people you will call them and you refuse to call, you don't have integrity. I said, Jesus. Eh. Because there were people I said, I will get back to you, but I didn't get back, you know. Okay. Thank you, sir, for your effort to push this thought. This, I would say, is a great warfare. You have contended with forces in our imagination. The ball is now in our court. Thank you. Thank you, Pastor. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. All right. I want to believe there are no questions since I'm not seeing anything like that in the comment box. On that note, we're about to call it a wrap for tonight. Hopefully next week I should be able to get some things ready and push it so that more people can be online. All right. But without any information prior to this, those of you who still showed up is greatly appreciated. More importantly, make use of what we've discussed. I wish you the very best. Permit me to pray as we leave tonight. Father eternal, we give you praise for your loving kindness. Blessed be your name, from whom all blessings flow. Spirit of the living God, we've had conversations tonight, some of which could have inspired some people, could have brought corrections to some people, could have brought comfort to some people, depending on different things you are doing in the heart of man. Spirit of the living God, I ask that you will breathe on the hearts of the people, that these words will not just only be heard, but will be engaged to produce. I pray for enabling grace. The Bible says it is God that is at work in us, both to will and to do of his good pleasure. As people who are willing by these things, Lord, I ask that you will enable them to do. Blessed be your name, faithful Father. Thank you, Lord. In Jesus' mighty name, I have prayed. Amen. Thank you all. Please have a great week ahead. And before you leave, if you have not liked the video, please just do. Try to put your signature there so that maybe more people can see it. See you. We meet next week. Enjoy